Hey everybody, welcome to the Global Groove Project podcast. My name is Elise, and I'm sitting here today with Michael Washington. How you doing?
Good. Happy to hang out here with you.
Right on,
Talk
man.
about music.
Yeah. Before I give an intro with your drumming career so far and who you are for people that might not know, how have you been and what have you been up to musically?
I've been good. We're finally getting into, we're getting out of Florida winter, and thankfully I've been playing and gigging a lot, driving all over Central and South Florida. So doing pretty good.
All right, let's do an intro for you. Michael Washington is a Tampa-based drummer, percussionist, educator, and performer who covers a variety of genres, including jazz, funk, pop, R&B, and world music. He's performed with Grammy-winning artists like Enrique Iglesias and Timothy Bloom. He's performed at venues ranging from the White House to major international festivals, appeared in Broadway productions touring Disney, and currently performs with the Tampa Bay Bucks beat line, or was that?
Yeah, a couple, 2 seasons back, yeah.
A couple of seasons back, and leads his fusion project, WA. His career has taken him across the globe, including Japan, Egypt, Bali, Thailand, Costa Rica, Panama, the Caribbean, South Korea, Colombia, and Europe.
Yes.
And Canada.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While dedicating his time to educating and mentoring the next generation of percussionists. How did I do?
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
awesome.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
What else do you want to add to that, if anything?
Do I add to that? No, I've just been trying to, it's weird, how we go in cycles with playing and learning, especially as teachers, playing and I've been taking time to study again and study stuff that I used to study, 15, 20 years ago, because I know some things I was more into or less into. I think some things I'm a little more receptive to now at this point in life, being older, a little more mature. So
talk to us about how you got started with drumming. When was the point that you knew drums is it? This is what I want to do. So
how I got started with drumming was, I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, and back in those days in the 80s, you had parade for every holiday, And I remember, my mom would take me to the high school football games that was next to our neighborhood, and always have the marching band and the drum line. But then we'd have the parades where I could actually get closer to the band because you'd hear the drums coming down the street, and just standing there in parades, having a good time as a little kid, little 4 or 5 year old, and hearing the drums and going, here they come. That's how I knew. That's how I knew it was it. And I didn't even start playing drums until I was 8 years old, but that was probably 3 or 4 years old right there.
Yeah. Did you start with any other instruments younger than that? Or?
I started singing first. So my family had a gospel choir, and they used to tour. Back when my mom was a teenager, they used to tour the Southeast and the Midwest, all the way up to, when I was born in the late 70s and early 80s, we were singing at all kinds of gospel festivals because my aunt was a choral director at 2 HBCUs in Columbia. So we were always the exhibition choir, and it was a different time. But yeah, we're probably in church, singing 3-4 days a week, singing, rehearsing. So I grew up in that kind of atmosphere.
In the family sort of atmosphere. How did your aunt influence you a little bit with music?
Oh, my aunt, with her practice, her very stern direction of you need to do it this way. I was taking piano lessons, and I was 4, but I wasn't practicing enough, and she would get on me and tell my mom, hey, he needs to practice, he's not doing what he's supposed to do. But I'm a 4-year-old kid. What am I gonna do? But even at that age, she had us doing vocal warm-ups, all of that stuff. And but she used to play B3, so she would be playing these very rhythmic bass lines with her feet. She'd play a moving harmony or a counter melody, and then play a melody with her right hand. And then at the same time, she'd be talking, saying, "Okay, now tenors. Your part is joy, joy." And she would do this in rehearsal nonstop, and she would give us critique. But these 4 limbs would never stop.
Wow.
She was playing the song, If she didn't speak, she changed hit the pedal or changed the volume, but this would never stop.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where did that evolve to with drums? Then once you started singing and playing drums, and then.
I think that happened when I was in elementary school, because we were going to a different church. We moved to Florida, and a couple of kids were playing drums. So of course, what are the other kids doing playing drums? What do I want to do? I want to play drums, But really, it happened more when I got into middle school and got into beginning band and got to play snare drum and everything. And that's mostly playing in church is how I got to play more. How that's where I had access to drums. I didn't have my own drum set until I was like 22 years old.
Whoa.
Living
No
with
way.
roommates.
How did you play drums before that then? Just.
At school, middle school, high school, drum corps.
Yeah, let's talk about drum corps a little bit too. Did you start? So you started marching in high school, or?
Yeah, I started in middle school. We had marching band and concert band. You had to do everything. Same thing in high school.
And did you do DCI at all? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got into drum and bugle corps through a Marine recruiter, because he was in a group called CMCC Warriors, way back in the days in New Jersey, when New Jersey was it was a different place. Yeah. But he told me, hey, there's this auditioning happening. You should go check out this group called Sunco Sound. And I went, and I was blown away, and I was like, I want to do this. And that was the start of a lot of practicing.
Was it the drumming aspect, or was it the competition aspect that you liked, or the whole thing?
It was, there were 30, 40 other people who were, in a sense, freaks just like me, who were not just into something, but like obsessed with something, obsessed with drumming, obsessed with trying to achieve a level, obsessed with trying to understand something, musically more.
Yeah. And when I think of you, I think of someone who's so versatile with so many different kinds of styles and genres and everything. How did you start moving through all those in high school, or what did you gravitate towards first?
First, I grew up in like the golden era of hip hop. So I grew up, all the way from the Treacherous Three, Kool Moe Dee, early like Big Daddy Kane, that kind of stuff, all the way to Tribe Called Quest years later. But I grew up with that music, and because of the influence I had through drum corps, I was listening to 80s, 90s rap music and R&B music and hip hop culture, and at the same time listening to Pat Metheny Group, Stan Kenton, Marion Ferguson, Buddy Rich, Bella Bartok.
Symphonic stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird, like the thing that, of course, hearing the music definitely had an influence on me, but seeing like, other groups that were playing, what's this percussion instrument? What are they playing? How are they getting that sound? Or, some of the records I hear, I could try to figure out what is that instrument? It sounds interesting. It's just, that's what pulled me towards a lot of hand percussion, a lot of music from around the world.
Yeah. Well, maybe now's a good time to talk about your kit and what you got going on.
So this is not my normal setup, like this percussion thing here. This is my regular setup. Sometimes I have a splash there. But I was just kind of experimenting with some different sounds, some different textures, if you will, using a pandero and a djembe. Just to get some different sounds, But I was kind of experimenting with some Sabar stuff and just different like West African 80s, 90s Afro pop, and trying to see if I can infuse it into the drum set. Because it's already been done, and a lot of players were just taking the ideas and just doing it right here in the kit and not including this because they have 2 to 5 other percussionists doing that.
Yeah, and for people that might not know what Sabar is, can you maybe explain that?
So Sabar this is not a Sabar drum, this is a djembe. You can find these all over West Africa, even some parts of Central Africa, from the Mande Empire, the Mali Empire, the Mande people. But Sabar drum is a little bit different. Usually there's 5 different drums, and 2 of them are they're long, but they have a closed bottom. And then the other 3 have open bottom, but they're tuned differently. But a Sabar is the name of a drum. It's the name of the dance that they do, and it's also kind of the name of the gathering to do that. sabar drumming and sabar dancing.
Is it similar to like salsa, where salsa is a style of music, it's also a dance?
Yes. Yeah.
Not similar in the rhythm necessarily, but the...
Yeah, but that's kind of like the root of where all that salsa stuff came from, was from the Congo, from Ghana, a little bit of Mali, a little bit of Senegal. You know, it's where the roots of most of that stuff came from. Like besides the chords and the piano and everything.
Do you want to maybe demonstrate some sabar?
Yeah. See if I can wake up my computer. So that's just an idea of mixing a sabar and a style called mbalak. It's spelled M-B-A-L-A-X, but it's pronounced balak. And the balak is it's a style of like pop, Senegalese dance and music. And it came from Cuban salsa because, they were listening to Cuban salsa in the 50s and 60s in Senegal. And all of a sudden, all these salsa bands popped up in Senegal. And then I want to say in the early 70s, Fanilla came over to the Congo because there was this Muhammad Ali fight, Muhammad Ali and someone else. And there was, James Brown, B.B. King, the Pointer Sisters, and they were young. They were like probably barely 20, if that. Pointer Sisters, a couple other singers and musicians. And it was one of the first times where like, there's a lot of West African countries that are gaining independence, but they were seeing the diaspora in action back in Africa, and they were like, "Oh, this is where you took and you did something new. So we want to take what you did." So, but the mbalak is actually a rhythm, and it's this, or straight in a kind of like an mbalak style, and it's kind of like the base or foundation rhythm that everything else happens on top of.
So when you're doing these rhythms with dancers, how does that correlate with each other? Do you play for the dancers? Do the dancers repeat what you do, or how does that? Does it reflect
both
each other?
at the same time? Like you want to play stuff. I mean, this is when you're talking about salbar, when you're talking about Puerto Rican bomba, Cuban rumba, Afro-Cuban rumba, many different styles. Colombian bujarengue. The drummer is kind of like, they say like initiating a dancer, kind of like trying to push the dancer to do certain moves, but at the same time, like you're following the dancer's moves. Like if they do something with their feet or more like lower body, you want more. If they do something that's up here, you know, or their hands, you want that kind of stuff. So it depends on how they're moving. And in all those cultures, it's a little bit different what kind of sounds they go for. But it's a very like interactive thing that's not necessarily set as one way to do it. You know?
Yeah. What are some of your favorite styles in general to play?
Some of my favorite styles, I love New Orleans music, NOLA music, traditional jazz. I love playing second line.
Oh yeah.
But I also love playing second line, and I also, I guess recently, kind of the last decade, I've been playing a little bit of like fusion, Indian jazz, rock, funk fusion, and learning about how they phrase music and some of the connections between Indian music and African music. They are very different in some ways and very similar in other ways. You know.
Yeah. Is there any demonstration you want to give us on Afro-Cuban rhythms, or
So how about the Mozambique? Mozambique. I don't have any congas, any tumbadoras, but like the Mozambique basically came from the Carnival de Comparsa Carnival. So you might hear like on a conga. Kind of thing, and a couple people have taken it to their drum set, and you might hear that kind of thing, or Elvin Jones. Love Supreme. That kind of thing, you know. I like the Mozambique because there's, you know, you're using all four limbs usually, maybe a clave here or just downbeat. You get to have a little bit of all the texture. That's one thing I like about Mozambique, and really a lot of Afro-Cuban styles of music.
And do you infuse this kind of thing with the New Orleans jazz and stuff like that when you do gigs? Do you mix some things, or is it dependent on the song?
It depends on the song. Sometimes like the NOLA stuff, it does have some origination from Afro-Cuban music, from Afro-Colombian music, from Afro-Mexican music, and the mariachis. You know, there's a lot of influence of that from that to New Orleans music. But I usually do it like if we're playing something that's like in the clave caribe, like a 3/3 instead of 2/3 or 3/2, which is very like Caribbean. You'll hear that all over the Caribbean. So in NOLA, you hear a lot of clave caribe, or like a rumba second line. But when you're playing that, you can also work. It kind of fits in there a little bit because it comes from the same place, you know. You don't lose the taquita, taquita, taca, taquita, taquita, taca, that kind of thing.
Who were your teachers in life in general growing up? Who were your inspirations, and how did you learn? Yeah.
Oh God, so many. I had a lot of teachers, you know, through Drum and Bugle Corps, almost sometimes a different staff every season, every other season. And, just back in the days when there were actually drum conventions or, drum shows, that kind of stuff, where people would go around and just play their solos and do master classes, the 90s, 80s and the 90s. So thankfully I had that kind of experience as a kid, which me and a couple other friends who've been pro musicians since, we were at those every year. It came to the Thoroughbred Drum Expo was in Tampa. We were there every year to see Sheila E., Tony Worcester Jr. He was like 10 years old, 9 to 10 years old, Tony Williams, Chad Smith. So many people, the percussionists from the Miami Sound Machine. There were so many different things going on. But my inspirations musically have to be Pat Metheny and Lyle Mays, Pat Metheny Group. God, there's so many. Buddy Rich, technique-wise, Buddy Rich, maybe not musically, but you can't deny those hands. Those hands are ridiculous. But also, like, Elvin Jones is one of my big inspirations, and someone who I got to see a couple times. When I was living in Japan, I went there when I was 21, about to turn 22. And, I listened to John Coltrane a little bit, didn't understand it. I was just like, okay, it's some jazz, cool. I learned a melody, love supreme. All right, I got it. I didn't have it, but I got to see him play at the Shinjuku Pit Inn. This was like 1999 in January, because he would always come back to Japan because his wife Keiko was Japanese. So they'd come back to Japan every year and do concerts and see family. So I got to see him and my mind was blown. And, here I am, this drum corps kid who's been, playing for 6 years. I knew all his rudimental stuff and I didn't understand anything he was doing. It was over my head, Yeah. But what other inspirations? Pat Metheny, Lyle Mays, Elvin Jones, Herbie Hancock. Like, that man he has always been and still always is, like, he's a new person from a musical sense. He's a musical chameleon, but he's, what are the kids doing today? Oh, he digs really deep into it and is like, okay, I got it. And here's a new album, like totally different kind of music, but he's still being himself. And that's what a lot of us try to do, because we grow up listening to so many people and trying to learn a style or song playing like different people. And one of the toughest things is to play as yourself. We grew up transcribing so much music or having to transcribe through school or teachers. And sure, we can learn, like, note for note how someone played this lick or this phrase or this melody, but we don't have the same voice texture. We don't have the same weight in our arms or in our hands, the same instruments exactly to a T. So we're never going to sound like them. They're never going to sound like us. So I think the more, I think you should transcribe and learn licks and learn the language of whatever kind of music you're playing. But the more you just play and just try to be yourself and not necessarily play it like this one person, like pick like 5 people you like and try to play like there's 5 people at the same time. You're going to sound like yourself wholly.
Finding your own
good or bad
identity. And when you're pulled in so many different directions, like you are with, playing rockabilly, and then you're playing with a bagpipe player, and then you're playing with these Indian groups and jazz. You have so many different identities in a way. But what do you gravitate towards the most? What's your?
It seems to shift, like there's seasons, kind of. I know, like 20 years ago, it was just Afrobeat, Afropop, and like 1960s, 1970s, JBs and James Brown, and Soul Live, and like the Roots, and that was it. And Erykah Badu, that kind of stuff.
I love Erykah Badu.
And I was shedding the heck out of that stuff for a while. But for me, it seems to go in seasons, because you meet new people, you might get a new musical experience. Like, okay, I'm going to take what I have, but I'm not going to go there and like, I'm going to just do this and like, what's happening? What's going on? Show me, can you explain these to me? Okay. And just try to figure it out.
Yeah. Before we take a little break, talk to us quick about your favorite places in the world you've been, because you've traveled a lot.
Yeah, well, I lived in Japan. I almost moved to Colombia, but I spent a lot of time in Colombia, missed that country. I need to get back.
Yeah.
But I've traveled a lot, thankfully, to music, to playing. You know, I was doing a gig at a Disney franchise in Japan, on and off between 98, 99, and then 2005 to 2010. And I traveled a lot because of that. And, you know, in my contract, I found, you know, these Brits who were, I was studying Middle Eastern percussion at the time, and I found these Brits who were, you know, Darbuka, a Rick player, and his wife was like, she has like a master's, a PhD now in woodwind, and she was studying Ney and Mizmar from Egypt. And they were doing this camp. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go there, you know? And I ended up going to Bali for a week, and then Thailand, because that's where we had to change the plane. So, okay, Thailand for a week, Egypt for a week to see all the UNESCO sites in daytime, and then nighttime to go see, you know, to do a belly dance cruise once or twice, to go see Nas Makan and Mazahir at the Makan Center in Saad Ghazal, it's part of Cairo.
And you get to see like the pyramids and all the other things too, I'm sure.
Yeah, all those UNESCO sites.
Did you get to go inside?
I went inside the Red Pyramid.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
That's a bucket list item for me for sure.
Yeah, it was. Like, and you don't just like go in, you climb, you know, you take the steps, whatever, to go up. And then once you get to the height of the pyramid, you turn around and you go down backwards.
Whoa.
Because it's not like, there's maybe like this much room, kind of. It's not very big, you know? So it's kind of like a ladder that's kind of at an angle, kind of climbing down. And then you can stand up and walk around to the different rooms, different levels.
Neat.
That was crazy.
Oh, cool. About Japan, you lived there for 6 years, I think?
Yeah, almost.
How was
6
the
years.
language barrier with all these things?
It was a little tough at first, but you know, I was 21, I was young, and I was eager to meet people, and in some senses it was easier from a speaking standpoint because their consonants and their vowel sounds don't change. Just like Spanish, it's a, e, u, e, o. Doesn't change. You know, it's when I came back in 2010, it was kind of like a reverse culture shock. I had difficulties with English, my first language, even though I was a kid that used to win spelling bees in elementary school, you know, all the way up to 5th and 6th grade. But like in English, we changed, you know, we have all these rules and we break every single one of the rules.
All kinds of things.
And that's why so many people that come to the States or to the UK or Australia, whatever, they struggle because English is probably one of the most difficult languages from a speaking standpoint. You know, writing is Roman. It's not that difficult to write, but
now with Urban Dictionary words and all these things that terms, new words that pop up every day now.
But I think you were asking about my favorite places. I love Japan. You know, I lived there a long time. My favorite places, Shibuya in Tokyo and Kyoto during the cherry blossom season. It is, if you ever go to Japan, go to Tokyo, you gotta go. But go to Kyoto during the cherry blossoms and see the cherry blossoms at all the temples that are like 400 or 500 years old.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's incredible.
Oh, that's so cool.
But besides those two places, my favorite places are Bali. It's one of the most peaceful places I've ever been in my life, and Colombia. It's an incredibly beautiful country. They're like, you know, very rich in art and music culture and food culture.
And how are the people there?
The people were awesome, like super hospitable. You know, I went to teach marching band and ended up making, you know, friends from all over the country. People I go and stay with when I go to Colombia and go hang with and help teach their bands or just hang out and whatever, take lessons from them, you know. But it was just, I've been there like 13, 14 times, and every time I'm just blown away at that they have, you know, over 200 something arts festivals a year, which always includes music.
Have you played anything in Colombia with these festivals, or?
No, I was just teaching. I was teaching marching band.
Nice.
The first couple times I went, and after that I was just teaching my friends' bands and judging marching band competitions. And I was taking lessons in Bogota from I forget the name of the drum school, but there's an incredible drum school in Bogota. And I was just, you know, I was asking them, hey, I want to learn like about bujarengue and their folk music and their rhythms, because I know it definitely that's where a lot of their pop music came from. So the more I can understand the folk stuff, their pop music. Yeah, I got it. So
cool, awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a second.
Yeah.
All right. Hey folks, quick shout out to the host of today's podcast at the Music Gallery. Check it out at mullinsmusic.org for more info. Hey everybody, we're back with Michael Washington. I wanted to talk about your teaching stuff and where you started teaching and how you got into that.
Okay, so I was teaching, I pretty much started teaching kind of when I was in high school, teaching fellow classmen and teaching middle school kids, elementary school kids. Because when I was in high school, I'd always go to the middle school to teach them our cadences and teach them technique stuff. And I ended up teaching that way about 3 years. And then after I started teaching the high school drumline, the students I was getting were kids that I taught. It was kind of crazy. I was a young kid, but I started teaching in high school and teaching through drum corps for a lot of years, up until around 2017. I was teaching private lessons until around 2017. And again, like I love teaching. I love sharing about music history. The thing today is like we're not competing with each other as teachers or drummers or whatever. Unless you're going to audition for a gig, we're competing against attention span and people on their cell phones. We're competing against behavior. People watching some YouTuber we never heard of that has 80 million followers. That's what we're competing against is attention span. So I guess one of the things for me, in the last couple of years of teaching is I've had, younger students to middle school, high school age. And I've never had this problem before, say a decade ago. But it's been hard to get kids to listen to music. Yeah. Like, hey, we're gonna work on this groove from this song. Here's the song, please listen to it. Nope. They come back, so you listen to the song. So did you listen to the song? No. No. I don't know what that is, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I was teaching in schools when I was about 22 on, and I had done private lessons, and it's now a decade later. And I remember asking veteran teachers of 30 years, and I was like, I know I haven't been doing it that long, but is something different than 10 years ago? Because I sense a difference. And they were like, oh yeah. And I don't know if that was COVID or I don't know what it was, but it was the same thing of pulling teeth, kind of trying to get kids to either listen to music or practice. Or I had a kid tell me the other day, I don't watch movies anymore. It's or I don't watch movies. It's just they're too long.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? So yeah, it's a lot of that you're competing against now with teaching. And I think not just in music, but across the board, I would say.
It's a lot of the youngsters are, well, I guess some of Gen A is kind of trying to move away from short form because that's all they've ever known.
Right.
And it's interesting that some of them, not enough, but some of them seem to gravitate towards, art and culture from the 70s and the 80s and even the 60s. It's kind of strange, but because I remember when I was a kid and we'd be on the bus going to school, we'd be trading tapes and listening to, I have this tape of The Roots. I have this tape of Tribe Called Quest. All right, let me have that tape for a couple days, whatever.
Yeah, or I made you a mixtape.
Or we record stuff from WMNF, from the radio, with these different radio shows, and just what is this music? I don't know. It's interesting though. What is this stuff? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a cultural thing, because we grew up in a time where when we listened to music, even if we were placed by ourselves, we would call our friends on the phone and not even say anything. It's like, hey, what are you doing now? And hey, I'm listening to this. Check this out. And put the phone down and just playing music. Yeah. What are you doing? What's happening? Da 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 da. Oh, my uncle, aunt did this. Blah blah. It's such a different culture.
Yeah.
Today, when everyone's stuck like this. Yeah. I was doing shows in a theme park yesterday at Busch Gardens, sort of special event, and we have 5 sets today, which are really 2 shows in each set. And last set, we come to this area that we're playing. It's 3 of us in a percussion group, and this table of youngsters are sitting there, just like that.
Not saying a word to each other.
Nothing. And we pull up, hey, and they're like, And we start playing. So midway through our show, they're completely just, their attention is like right here. And when we finish, they stayed right here.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes there's not enough of the good quality stuff that's reaching kids to get their attention. Because that's our competition is getting attention. That's it.
So where do we go from here musically, or, what do you see for the future musically, for you or for students or for, anything?
For me, I've gotten back to teaching recently, but more online instead of in person, just because, it makes it easier not having to drive and that kind of thing. And they can reach more people and reach more adult students who are a little more mature and know that they want to do something very specific.
Yeah, and I think at this point you can be choosy with who you want to teach. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's weird. I think music is going a lot of places. Like our generation, the music for some reason, the music of the 70s and some of the styles of the early 80s were like back in fashion, just like they are again now.
Yeah.
So I think music is kind of doing that. It's going forward and backward at the same time.
It is. Yeah.
Looping back around and then moving forward in the decade on doing this thing,
Yeah.
But
do you feel like it's oversaturated with genres and styles and bands, and there's just so much of it now that it's like anybody can produce music at their home now, anyone can compose stuff, anyone can... It's
oversaturated with quantity. It's oversaturated with companies, who they are, creating and paying for AI bands to put on their services to get you to listen so they can make money from their own AI bands and not pay musicians. But there's not, there's a large quantity, saturation of quantity, but there isn't an overtly saturated high quality.
I agree.
I mean, there's a lot of high quality musicians, but you need to know, in a sense, what you're looking for within certain styles or genres,
If there's a kid that comes to you and says, hey, Michael, this is what I want to do. I want to be a drummer. What do you say to him? I mean, I'm sure all these thoughts come in your head of what to tell him, and you want to be honest, but at the same time, you don't want to diminish that spark that the kid has, I'm sure. So how do you... what would you say to him?
If there's someone that, hey, I just want to learn drums, let's go. But if there's someone's, hey, I want to be a rock star, I want to be a pro drummer, and they're, middle school or high school age, I'm going to tell them the truth. It takes so much practice that you never see. It takes so many fails that you never see. It takes being in so many different bands that never work out to find the one that does. And you have to be able to get through all of that and push through all of that to get to halfway to where you want to be, And
I think you have to wear a lot of different hats, I'm sure, as a musician. I mean, it's hard to do just gigs now.
Yeah, these days.
For a lot of people, and sometimes you have to teach, sometimes you have to do anything that'll get you work, so. Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny is it's what pays the bills. Thankfully, it pays the bills is being a little bit of a chameleon in different genres, and between the drum set and hand percussion, getting to play a lot of the Broadway tours that come through that need a hand percussionist. I've got to play The Wiz, Life and Times of the Temptations, Tina, with performers who have Tony Awards and musical directors that were on Broadway. And a lot of that thanks to, my brothers and sisters that I was on tour with when I was a kid in drum corps, passing, hey, listen to this. Who is it? I don't know. It's somebody called John Faddis or somebody called Manny Ferguson. I don't know. Check it out. Or it's Phil Collins. Who? Okay. Yeah. Oh, Genesis. I know who that is. But advice I would give is listen to as much music as you can, especially for a drummer percussionist. Listen to as much different music as you can, older music. And when I say listen, I mean listen, only listening to the music, not while you're doing the dishes or watching something on YouTube or playing video games. or driving, just sit down, just listen. Because I know there's stuff I listen to now, I've been listening to for 20, 30 years, and I was like, where did that sound come from? I never heard that. I know this song. I've never heard that sound before. Where did that come from? Why did I not hear this? Where, it's weird. It takes so much time to like really understand the song, understand like the intent of the composer, arranger. It takes a lot of listening to really get that. Yeah, I think if there's any, drummer, percussionist out there, or drummer that wants to be a percussionist, whether you're a kid or a kid at heart, like I am, I would say check out Mickey Hart's Planet Drum, these albums from the early 90s and the mid 90s. And he also has a book called Drumming at the Edge of Magic, and it's kind of his story. Like him and Zakir Hussain grew up together. Zakir, the tabla player, world renowned, one of the greatest tabla players to ever live, and will probably be the same way in 100 years. But they kind of grew up together because Mickey's father was an ethnomusicologist, and Zakir's father was another incredible musician, and they just grew up, teenagers, traveling the world together until a couple years ago when Mickey left us. But check out that book, Drumming at the Edge of Magic, and also the book and the album Planet Drum, because that is a gateway to music around the world. Rhythms, drums. You have like Arito Moreira and Flora Purim, his wife, both great musicians, percussionists, singers. Babatunde Olatunji, Zakir Hussain, Giovanni Hidalgo, Hamza El-Din. You have so many great musicians to start from. And, and then the way I tell my students is, if you like a certain type of music or genre or musician, find out who that musician's inspiration was and try to like kind of go down the family tree of like who was the student of that musician or who really listened to that person, and just listen to all the stuff, go backwards and listen to all the stuff back to where you were. And learn from that, and you'll, even though you're listening and maybe even transcribing that stuff, it will lead you to being your own musician and being more well-rounded, definitely.
I love that. If people want to check out more of what you're doing, or find you around the area, certain projects you're working on, where can they find you and what can they look up and see?
The best place to go to would be my website, which is Michael Washington AE. That's MichaelWashington AE for arts and entertainment. And there you can find links to all my socials, to what's happening and all of that stuff, my photography and all of that other crazy stuff.
Yeah, photography, definitely. It's another passion and talent of yours.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this and for sharing your expertise and your education with everybody. And it's been a treat to have you on this as our first guest on the Global Groove Project podcast. I also have a T-shirt for you.
Oh,
too.
cool! Yeah.
So the first few guests will get T-shirts. So
nice.
You definitely get one.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Man. Yeah, it's been really cool. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.